Welcome. Meeting of the Nevada Irrigation District Board of Directors will come to order for January 22nd. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Secretary, can you please call the roll?
Division 1,
Here.
Division 2,
Here.
Division 3,
Here.
Division 4,
Present.
Division 5.
Here.
Okay. Now we will have public comment for any item that is not on the agenda. Is there anyone either online or in the audience that would like to comment on anything? Seeing none, I'm going to close public comment. We'll move to special orders. Presentation of the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting received from the Government Finance Officers Association.
Well, Board, it is with great pleasure that we get to announce that we were awarded an award essentially for our audit. It's referred to as a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and it was received from the Government Finance Officers Association. So just a little bit of background. In the past, the district has also received this award. I've always been a little bit suspect of the award because it doesn't necessarily, it can not necessarily reflect the health of your financials, but it's more focused on the presentation. But however, I am with all confidence able to report that this year when they requested to submit for the award, I said absolutely, because I am confident in the soundness of our financials and am very proud of all the work that the finance team has done over the past 2 years. They have completely cleaned up the finances. Everything is reconciled, closed on a monthly basis, and this is all new for this district.
Yes, we know.
And they keep up on it. Every report now has accurate data. Even our audit team has given kudos to Sandra and her finance team. So the finance team is here today. And Sandra, did you want to say anything? And a lot of this is due to Sandra's leadership, but also her team's willingness to implement change and to embrace the new way of doing things. So they all deserve a lot of kudos.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Am I on? Yeah. Oh, thank you. Good morning, Board. Sandra Dunlap, Director of Finance. I wanted the team to come here today so you can all see them in person. So I'm just going to do some quick introductions and thank yous. We're not going to go in any particular order, but we'll start with Corey. So Corey's our budget analyst, and he handles everything budget. So as you know, we adopted a new budget policy, so he makes sure we're all following that. For year end, he helps reconcile the capital project. So that's a huge task. So thank you, Corey, for being part of the team. We'll go with Desiree. Desiree is one of the accountants here. We have 3 accountants. Dal is not here today, so we still want to recognize her. Desiree handles a lot of the accounts receivable. So she works closely with Aurora's team. Aurora's here as well. So the rental properties, cash, anything like that. So thank you, Desiree. And so the 3 accountants really do a tremendous lift at year end for our audit. So a little extra kudos to the accountants. Then we have Catherine, our controller. So Catherine's been here for a few years as well. She's helped take over the day-to-day with the team, accounts payable, payroll, approving journal entries. Again, she led the audit. I was actually on maternity leave last year. So thank you, Catherine, so much for that, keeping everybody on track, pushing forward, meeting all of our deadlines. Next, we have Liz. So Elizabeth, she is the payroll processor here. Again, just kind of night and day. Her confidence has built over the last few years. Payroll is getting done so quickly and timely. She helps reconcile. She makes sure we pay CalPERS and everything like that. She helps at year end with pulling data for our actuarial, so the OPEB data. So she does a lot of work. Everybody touches on year end and audit. We have Sue. Sue's accounts payable. Sue is newer to the district. During the 2023 audit, she was not here, but this is her first year end. So 2024 will be a great year for her. Jennifer Murtha, I'm going to jump Diana. Jennifer Murtha there in the back, she was the accounts payable processor for the 2023 audit, which we're getting this award for. And that's a lot of work. So in January, February of the new year, she is combing through all of the invoices, making sure to back post. So she runs dual batches every single week, posts back to the current year, or excuse me, the prior year, make sure the current year expenditures are in there, make sure we have budget and everything. So AP is a very important task. So she's cross-training Sue on the year-end process this year. So thank you, Jennifer, for your help. She also processes the 1099s, so all the year-end stuff. So January is very busy. And then we have Diana. Diana is also one of the accountants here at the district. She does the bank reconciliation, and every single month she does the bank reconciliation on time. So thank you, Diana, for that. Cash is very important to keep track of. She also handles some of the interfaces, so like the utility billing and AR side with Aurora's team, and works closely with the departments. So thank you, Diana. Joan's in the back. Joan's our purchasing supervisor. So Joan handles all the purchase requisitions, and that's a critical piece at year end because we have to close all the POs for the year if we're done. So she's reaching out to departments constantly. Hey, are you done? Is this the final invoice? So thank you, Joan, for that. And we only leave open certain POs for the next year, like construction ones, multi-year. So it takes a big effort from everybody on the team. So we greatly appreciate all of you here. And as you know, we're moving to the Tyler ERP, so nobody can leave. Thank you. So yeah, thank you, everybody. You did a great job, and we're looking forward to a great year this year. We actually are combining, usually the auditors come out twice a year, but we've gotten pretty efficient. So we're combining it into a 1 week auditors on site instead of 2. And we're comfortable with that. So we just keep pushing through. So thank you. And thank you, board, for your support and approving our financial policies. And we've been adhering to those. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, each and every one of you.
I want to.
Yeah.
Compared to where we were 3 years ago, you guys have done a huge lift.
Mhm.
Thank you. That's impressive.
So.
Yeah.
Well, yes, thank you. I was here beyond that, and it was, Chris can attest. You guys have done an enormous amount of work, and under Sandra's leadership, I am so grateful. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. Thank you, guys. Then we can move on to our consent agenda. That's where we are, yeah. Our consent agenda. Does anyone have any comment or want to pull any items from the consent agenda?
Madam President, I'd like to pull number 4E, please.
Okay, we have item 4E. Anybody else?
I'll move to accept the consent agenda but not for 4E. We'll remove that.
Great. Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
Thank you. We have motion and second. Any public comment? Seeing none, take the vote, please.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes. Okay, so let's take up item 4E.
Thank you, Madam President. I was, I've already talked to Jennifer about this item, so I know the backstory, know all the reasons why, but was so shocked at the dollar amount of this write-off. As we went through COVID and understood the reasons why we have this stuff going on, but I just want to take this opportunity to express my dissatisfaction with the state over its unfunded mandates. And this is one of those, an indirect unfunded mandate, and it's just really frustrating. I know we have probably no recourse, but I think it'd be helpful for all of us to be able to get it off our chest and talk a little bit about what happened, why it's $76,000, right? And that's the purpose for taking it off the agenda, off the consent.
For discussion. Okay,
Yeah,
is
but-
anyone else?
Yeah, Chris, on the other hand, they're out of there. So we can go forward.
Oh, I understand that.
Yeah.
I get all the details. It's just, I think our constituency needs to understand that this is, we could have bought a lot of Badger meters for this amount of money, right, Chip? a lot, I don't know how many, but things like that, that we have to pay without, we have no control over it, no recourse. We just have to pass it on to the ratepayers. So I want them to know, ratepayers, taxpayers fund this stuff. And that we have a deal with things that we have virtually no control over. So,
Yeah, one of the issues, as I think was alluded to, was that during the COVID emergency regulations that were issued by the governor, there was a moratorium on evictions, which a lot of folks at that time stopped paying their regular utility bills and or rents. Once the emergency regulation was lifted in, I believe it was June of 2022, there then has been new legal requirements for evictions in general in California, which provide a lot more tenant rights to the tenant. And so it's extremely difficult to evict folks now. As stated, they are evicted. I know that Director Heck, you did ask about the condition of the facilities, and I can let Greg answer. I know that one was a double wide facility that needed too many repairs that exceeded the costs or the
value?
value of the double wide, or was it single wide?
Yeah, I think it was a single wide trailer that was just dilapidated over the years. It had just fell apart. So we have removed that one. The other one is getting repaired, and it will be repaired enough for either a tenant or some other disposition of the property.
You know what the cost of those repairs are going to be for that second one, approximately?
You know, I don't off the top of my head,
Okay.
Director Hack. Some of these properties, you know, we are constantly going through a series of repair.
Right.
A tree falls on one, a tree falls on a deck. We've
Mhm.
got, you know, I just got an email, a water pump went out on one of them, so we gotta replace that. I mean, all of the repairs are health and safety concerns.
Sure.
If there is a repair that is not necessary for the health and safety of a tenant or of a future property owner, then we don't do it. The repairs for this one, you know, they're things like a new stove is needed, carpet,
Is it a mobile home?
paint. No, the one that's still standing is a stick-built house, 2-story. Upon full repair, it's a nice home
Mhm.
on top of
Well,
the
so
river.
my concern is that we keep these vacant for now until this board decides how to go forward on the disposition or not disposition,
Yeah,
so that we don't have that same problem again with tenants
yeah.
that can
All
sometimes,
Leaving things vacant is then the rodents and the critters moving.
well,
So
it depends.
Yeah.
Well,
It depends.
Of the 13 residential properties,
Uh-huh.
That's my question. How many do we
Yeah.
have?
2 of the structures have been removed.
Uh-huh.
One was removed years ago.
Right.
And this one now, 22684 Dog Bar is removed. So of the 13 structures, 11 still have homes on them. And 2 of those 11 are vacant currently.
Mhm.
One is one of these properties and another is an individual who just passed away about 2 months ago. And so we don't anticipate re-renting those.
Mhm.
But depending on what we do with these properties in the coming months, you know, we don't want them to your point, we don't want them just sitting vacant for long periods of time. But if it's a matter of just a few months, maybe that's the right thing to do. We've got handyman and a contractor in this particular property and has been over the course of the last few months. Rain stopped, and so they're starting and going. But it should be fully repaired here shortly.
Do
Yeah.
do we have signed, do we have signed contracts with the tenants?
All of the tenants are currently on a month-to-month. So
With a
it's-
signed contract?
You know, the properties are managed through a property manager, and they
Yeah.
handle the tenant contracts.
They initially started on a tenant contract. All of them go through the tenant process where they have to be vetted with all of their, you know, down payment and everything. But after that initial year lease expires, their typical tenant is that they go on a month-to-month until they're
Right.
not.
Until they're not, but
So-
they're still, we still have to give them 3 months notice even if they're on a month to month.
There's a whole process.
Yeah, it's a
established,
lengthy process.
Does
but
the management company handle all that?
they do.
And they handle they oversee the repairs, or
That's
do
correct.
they, um, do they have a budget or a dollar value, or do they contact the district? before
Yeah.
Say a house is pretty torn up.
Yeah.
Do they,
Our agreement is they have roughly, and it's standard, I think it's $1,000 of, they have the ability to go ahead and do the contract, and they're notifying us of something, but we're not giving them some secondary authorization. They come to us when something's $1,000, 1,001 or more. And a lot of these repairs often become 1,001 or more
Very quickly, Adam.
very quickly.
this is not unusual in the rental market. I'm familiar with that, having done it.
Yeah.
Um, And for context, these are all in the inundation zone of Centennial Reservoir?
Yep.
All 13?
Yes, they are.
Just for clarification regarding the item that's before the board, it's requesting to write off the amount. And what
Right.
that means is it doesn't mean we're not pursuing collection. We're still pursuing collection of the funds owed. However, from an accounting perspective, when you have money owed to the district, we note it as a receivable. So as far as our finances go, it impacts the fund balance. All liabilities and receivables impact the fund balance. Because it looks like there's cash owed that we may not get, and it's subject to this collection process, which we're likely not going to be 100% successful. From an accounting perspective, it's a best business practice to write it off, but we will still proceed with collection of the funds.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
These individuals, like Jennifer says, they are moving forward with moving into the collections process as we speak.
I just have a question about how is there a provision or some kind of mechanism so we can not find ourselves in this situation in the future?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Obviously that's the goal, right? But is there something in place?
Sell the homes.
well, the fail safe now, I think this situation was exasperated by the moratorium on being able to move through evictions. Now that is lifted, we are diligent about following the eviction process that is now laid out. And it depends on whether you're under a lease or whether you're in a month to month, how many months you have to get. And now we just automatically roll through that process.
I'd also like to point out, previously, even with the expense of management and repairs, we were still profiting on renting these houses in the past. Is that correct?
More or
It
less.
was,
More
it
or-
wasn't
yeah.
time. It wasn't a lot of money, but
Yeah.
it wasn't costing us, right?
Yeah, more or less. And I'm still working with finance on that. And when we bring the larger item for these properties to the board, we'll have more information on total costs, money out, money in. But more or less, of these 9 tenants currently, we're receiving monthly sums in the amount of between $1,500 to $3,300 a month per property. So
I have two
Go ahead.
comments here, if I could. The accountability, I realize that one of the accountabilities, I'm frustrated like Chris is, but one of the accountabilities is obvious at the ballot box, which we can only request there. But the other accountability is that these tenants now have hopefully a stain on their record, which will not allow them to do this to somebody else.
that is correct.
And the second question or comment I have is squatters. If we're gonna leave these places open, what mechanism do we have in effect so that a squatter can't come in, then we can't evict them for 3 months also?
Yeah, so with these properties, so like I said, two are vacant. One individual passed away early December, I think it was. So we have to hire a contractor to go in and clean it out, fix what's broken. And so they're doing that currently. So that individual or that company's working on that property. This other property, they've been working on it for a number of months as well. I'm driving by. I sometimes pop into these places. Our tenants, our property manager is going through. They have that idea in mind as well. Like what's vacant can become immediately not vacant based on a given weekend. This one in the dog bar has a really nice fence, so it is not noticeable from the road. You would have to really know the area who's coming in and out of it, but it's got a gate. I'm sorry, it's a gate.
You know, I have a question because one of the ways, Earl, to address that is with inspections, you know, and
Yeah.
it sounds like you're doing it, but I'm wondering, does our property management firm have within their contract, you know, go by every 3 weeks or, you know, some kind of regular inspection where they can go in and see what's
An
going
annual
on?
inspection within our agreement. However, as these become vacant, like I said, currently there's contractors in and out of
Mhm.
these properties. So we've got a third party hired to fix up, clean, remove
Mhm.
trash, detrash it. Once they are vacant, I will be talking with them about, there's nothing, I don't believe there's anything in the contract that I know about.
Well, but by law, we have, you know, entry rights of entry
Correct.
and all of that. So we can't, you know, we can. I just think that's one of the ways to address your concern
Yep.
is make certain that we have some kind of regular inspections of not only the vacant, but the current properties that are rented to make sure that folks are behaving themselves.
Put a camera up.
Can't do that.
You get the live feed. You get to watch it, Rich.
I'm not sure we want to do that.
No, and it's,
They have
it's
an app
not
for
allowed.
I'm not sure it's allowed.
I have a comment that's outside, it's almost outside of the context of this.
Almost.
It's right on the edge. So I wonder if, and this is, I wonder if there's not an opportunity for employee housing for, if there's district employees that are having to commute for long distance, if there's an opportunity to put a preference, if these were to be let out in the future.
Mhm.
Anyways, that's like I said, on the edge of context.
Yeah, worth exploring. Let me talk. It would have to be at market rate as
To be
to,
market rate.
yeah, prevent the gift of public funds. But let me talk with Dustin regarding that because that was also brought up by Director Stevens. So employees would take better care of them.
Yeah.
They would.
And there'd be a little bit more accountability. It could be a good deal for everybody.
They could patrol too.
Sure.
Right.
Good point.
Could I ask a question for Dustin?
Yes.
What is the squatter's rights? If they show up and if they have to be there for X number of time before we lose our ability to immediately evict them, or as soon as they walk in the door, are we done?
With
Yeah.
our others, yeah, Dustin. Oh, not he's there.
He's there.
I'm not an expert in this area, Director Stevens, but my understanding is that as soon as somebody comes onto property that's not entitled to be there, that's a trespass.
Mhm.
And there's, I'm sure, a provision. I don't recall offhand our agreement with the property management firm, but we can pull that contract and confirm that there's a provision that authorizes and directs them to, you know, remove trespassing parties from a vacant parcel. So, you know, this item is coming back to you. I don't know the timing of that, but appreciate the discussion. We have gone a bit afield here of the item before you, but this is an item that will come back to you. And we could have a more robust discussion at that time as well.
Thank you. Well, are we ready for a motion on item 4E?
Chris?
Yes, Madam Chairman, I'll move that we adopt, we approve item 4E, write-off for uncollectible property rents.
I'll second.
Great. Motion and second. Is there any public comment about this? Is there anyone out there in the virtual world or here? It appears not. So with that, we'll take roll call, please.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes. Thank you very much. Okay. We will now move to general orders. Item 5A, amendment to the funding year 2025 CIP budget. Oh, and we get to have Doug.
This will be one of Doug's
I know.
handful of last items.
1 month, but who's counting?
30 days, but who's?
Oh, he is.
We gotta reserve the Pet Hill Extension project.
Actually, I've got an update for you on that. So, good morning, board,
Doug?
staff, members of the public, Doug Roderick, Director of Engineering. So we're here today, recommending, excuse me, recommending that the board adopt the resolution which is going to amend the
fiscal year 2025 capital budget in the amount of $2,101,222. And then also the 2025 internal services budget in the amount of $21,000. This is for 4 projects that we started in the 24 period, and we've now exceeded into the 25. Just a quick update, the Ore Creek, or the Combi, which is the Ore Creek siphon, is the one we're doing first. The materials have been ordered. We got delayed with regards to the permit. Apparently, we hadn't had a permit application wasn't complete, so we've been doing some back and forth. That put us into the weather window where we couldn't do our crossing in the creek itself, because we're just gonna do an open dig through there. We got permission to do that, but we need to wait now until Mother Nature quit raining. But when Mother Nature starts here this next summer, a contractor will come back on and take care of all that. They're not charging us for any delays related to that. So, second one is North Auburn. Man, we ever get that MCC panel, it's gonna be awesome. Supposedly, that's the Motor Control Center, I think is the acronym. Anyways, the VFD panel, right? It's the VFDs that we're installing for the high lift pumps that we have out there at North Auburn. We now have a date of February 7th that it's supposed to be delivered. Tesco went through a big upheaval in terms of one of the main folks left and started another company, et cetera, excuses. So anyway, we're just waiting for that. Once we get that put in, and then we can wrap that project up. And then the last one is the Maven, and that one will be basically completed probably the end of this week, except for one valve that will be delivered the second week in February. We'll get that installed, and then that'll be wrapped up. So that one will be good to go. And then the last one is the hazard tree removal. That's just a weather delay. You know, and you could do so much before the end of the year, and so they'll be rolling into next year. So any, excuse me, any particular questions on those anybody has?
Any questions from the board?
No?
Any questions from the public? Okay, I guess we can entertain a motion.
Madam President, I'll move that we adopt resolution 2025-08, authorizing amendment to the fiscal year 2025 CIP budget in the amount of $2,101,222, and the internal services budget in the amount of $21,000 to carry forward unspent appropriations from the fiscal year 2024 budget.
Mouthful. And
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I second.
Thank you. We have a second from Director Johansson.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Okay, would you please call the roll? Thank you.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes.
thank you very much.
Everybody. Thanks, Doug. Next item will be Maintenance Department position reclassification of a senior utility worker to be maintenance supervisor. Morning.
Good morning. This item came about in starting November of last year. The employee who was in the position of senior utility worker was able to be promoted and went to the hydro department. And at that time, we were able to look at our needs and started determining that in best to address some of our issues and our aging infrastructure, both our facilities, main office, our yards and our treatment plants, and the aging infrastructure for our water service, that we could organize our leadership in a way to be more efficient and address some of our priorities. Therefore, we have a vacant senior utility worker position that we're looking to reorganize and reclassify to a maintenance supervisor to lead our facilities team with no change in FTEs. And there is a minor increase in budget that would be absorbed in the fiscal year 2025 budget. We believe that this will both help the existing maintenance supervisor who is overseeing both crews to focus on our treated water system and maintenance, and then also allow us to be more proactive in our maintaining our facilities and grounds. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Great, thank you. Questions from the board? Comments?
More efficiency.
More efficiency, good job. Okay. Is there any comment from the public? Seeing none, we can entertain a motion, please.
Madam Chair, I move to approve resolution 2025-09, approving the position reclassification of a senior utility worker to a maintenance supervisor within the maintenance department.
Great. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have motion second by Johansson. Please call the roll.
Division 5,
Yes.
Division 4,
Yes.
Division 3,
Aye.
Division 2,
Aye.
Division 1.
Yes. Okay. Next, item 5C, water rate schedule.
Thank you. This item is presented to the board to obtain input. As most of the board is aware, we have started the internal background work on developing of a new rate schedule. Per Proposition 218, there's several touch points with the board as well as the public. So I wanted to present our schedule to the board for development as well as implementation for the new rates. And if you'll notice in the staff report, the bullets that are highlighted in black are going to be touch points specifically with the board for specific items. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
The first one I came up, the first question I have has come up before. How do we, when we have a mid-season water rate change, how does that work for raw water? Implementation of raw water.
So likely
forget
what
that.
staff would do, I mean, there's two options, right? You send customers a prorated increase bill, which I don't think is a good idea. What I would probably, and Chip and I haven't discussed it thoroughly yet, but we would likely recommend that the raw water rate increase, if approved, be delayed until the next billing cycle. The board has the authority to have the start date of the implementation of the rates whenever you desire.
So back to the billing cycle, are we talking next year or so you could have
Generally.
two options to pay. So it'd be,
Probably in.
so we would miss all of 2025 for a rate increase.
Mhm.
Chip's, yeah, sorry, Chip. We always got these technical
Can
details.
we push that podium forward a little? Because because nobody can see you.
Oh, that's perfect.
You see his feet.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, so yeah, thanks for the question. We did do a prorated rate increase in the past on the raw water customers, and it was a bit of a nightmare.
Mhm.
The PR from it was not great. The amount of money it costs us to customize the billing for every customer halfway through the season really didn't pay off. So I think what we would propose, and again, we're spitballing here, but essentially we would miss the 2025 irrigation season, but have the potential to pick up maybe winter water or something like that, and then start it again for 26.
Any more comment or questions? I do have one comment on the schedule. And I will be gone during April 9th, but I did find out that I will be returning on the 22nd of April. So
Okay, I will
it's
work.
my grandson's birthday.
I will, it is, we will do everything we can to make sure all 5 board members can
Mhm.
participate. We do know that it's very important to all of you
Yes,
to represent your constituents in this matter. So I will work with the consultant to see if we can shift that schedule around.
thank you. I appreciate
And
it.
if any of the other board members, if you have a conflict, please let me know so we can also
Right.
try to work with that. Are there any other questions regarding the schedule?
Doesn't appear so. Any public comment about our schedule? Seeing none, this is not a vote item. This was informational,
Yeah,
right?
just looking for.
Okay, great, thank you. Next is the item 5D, project and facility report, and this is to change the reporting. Sandra.
Yes.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
We're moving right along here.
Yep.
All right, so the item before you is to talk about and discuss potentially removing one of our reports that you receive. And that report is the project and facility report. It goes under consent every board meeting. And kind of what we've been talking about the last couple years is finance would really prefer to present things on a closed book.
Mhm.
So this report is essentially a live report. And a good example is right now, right? So we're in January, and as I mentioned, we're back posting AP to the prior year for audit if those expenses are last year, or they get posted in January if they're for the current year. So these numbers on this particular report are constantly changing. So we feel that we present it to you and then it changes. It could change tomorrow actually because we have an AP check run. So we would prefer to remove that one and continue with the budget to actual CIP report on the quarterly financials, which is done off of a closed reconciled month quarter.
Mhm.
And just also a note we put in here, we are moving to Tyler ERP. And so we have worked with the departments on these codes and the facilities, and are they useful? Are they not? And so we've kind of determined there's a handful of criteria we would keep. Is it reimbursable? Then yeah, we want to track that, right? We want to get reimbursed for it. Is there a federal or state reporting? Yes, we want to keep that. Or is it a budgeted CIP? So those three criteria, we will keep those going for the reporting so we can track those. But a lot of them aren't really
Needed.
100% accurate, right? It's staff kind of remember to code their time to it sometimes, and and it's not the best use of their
Does it
time.
cause more work for staff?
It causes more work because they have
would
to,
imagine.
it's like an attorney, right? They have to itemize out what they spend their time on their time card. So
Right.
it's data entry on their time card, and then it's data entry for payroll. And then
Mhm.
it's about 3 to 4 reports actually from our system that we pull together to make this report for the board. So that report is also timely to compile every other week.
Well, and then this doesn't tie back to any of our financials.
Right.
So, I mean, from my perspective, and I know several of the board members asked me, I wouldn't use this report to make decisions because
Well, and it's even more useless to us, to me.
right.
I mean,
Yes.
no disrespect
No, no.
about the
I
usefulness
feel the
of.
same way about it. We
report.
don't use it even internally, so
But-
I
Right.
don't recommend using it. It was just something that has always gone to the board, and now is a good time as we continue to clean up and focus on, the closed items and reconciling. That's really what we want to go to the public and to the departments.
We're still using paper timesheets until we go on to Tyler. So that makes
No,
us
that
even
is-
more disastrous.
So we're into efficiency,
Right.
Yes.
Into efficiency, yeah.
Yes.
Doing things that
productivity,
matter.
so this will help you
My very
get
first,
rid of it.
Efficiency and usefulness. If it's not useful, why are we doing it? If it's
Exactly.
not important to track,
it's misleading.
$77 for an entire year on one
So I saw that on the Scott's Flat
version.
Spillway.
Yeah, then why? Why are we, spending the time to do it?
Right.
my first board meeting here, I met with Jennifer and I looked at it and it says, this is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't give me a basis point. If we've spent $12 million on something, does that mean we're overspent it by 11 million or are we still under it by 100 million? I can't tell anything by
Mhm.
this. It's superfluous, excuse me.
And that's what nudged us to finally address it.
So the under consent this time would be the last one, and that's kind of wrapping up 2024. So we thought, oh, this is a good time. We won't do it all of 25 if approved. Clean start. And also, so we start working towards what we're going to be doing in Tyler, that new ERP finance suite. So we want to start getting in the habit of what's useful, what's efficient, what are we going to do going forward?
Got it.
And the quarterly actuals, they also show a percentage of
the budget,
of the
yeah.
budget spent, right? They-
Yeah. So the quarterly
Those are-
is
those are
comparing
way
to the
more-
budget. Yes.
Way more
This is just kind of,
meaningful.
what is the budget? It's,
Mhm.
and we don't budget to this detail, right? We don't budget to a canal and a diversion.
Right, it doesn't,
any of that.
right.
So
It isn't
it's
really.
really hard to get,
Mhm.
are you over
I
budget?
get it.
Under budget? Is this?
So this is a recommendation. Do you need us to?
Just looking for input.
I just have a
Consensus?
question is somebody came up with the reason why
Yeah, that's.
why this was important. This was important to somebody. Who was that and what's the history of why it's done this way? Does anybody know?
In 1920, no, I don't know. I honestly.
And that may be
I
the
don't.
fact.
Can it be?
There's a lot of, we've always done it that way,
Sure.
historical, and then you start asking and really communicating to departments and nobody kind of knows.
Nobody
why.
remembers.
So then-
So that's why we've kind of defined it. Is it something you can get reimbursed for? Is it a budgeted CIP? Is it a federal or state reporting? Those are all important to the departments.
I think that there was some form of this that was reported on for some time, and then it got a little out of control.
Committees, the committees.
But Brad,
System
for-
used to be on a monthly basis and.
That's right.
They
You're
would
right.
be discussed specifically to projects,
Mhm.
which we don't do any longer.
All the old subcommittees that we
Correct.
had. Yeah.
Well,
And
and when I first got here, there was a FATAR.
Yes.
The-
Yeah, that's what this left.
That was-
essentially what
I know.
That's what that left column.
that was opened up for just about anything under the sun. You know, if we were gonna purchase a new table, they'd open up a new facility.
Number, yeah.
Yeah, it was like,
I
it
mean,
was
you're-
crazy.
At that point, you're spending more money tracking than the purchase
Mhm.
of the item. It makes zero sense.
Right.
so it's safe to say this is more of a diversion than an
Yeah,
accurate
there's other
state of
ways, there's
facts.
other ways that we, communication, I think, is really key to departments. Like,
Mhm.
why do you need this? What are you looking for? So if it's a single vendor, we can run a vendor history. We can run a purchase order history. You don't need a number for that.
Right.
Like, there's other ways to find the data if you really need.
Yeah, but I think to Director Fowler's point, this was, if I understand it, these were created long ago.
Mhm.
And I think it was helpful to a monthly committee that was happening to dive really deep. into
APC or
that
something like that.
is just not necessary.
I agree.
Start a good fire.
In a
Um,
fire pit.
That's right.
is there any public comment about this? Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, seeing none. Do we need a motion for this? I don't think so. I think it's just consensus.
On to pues.
It was just provide direction, just informally and input. So I think I've heard the
I
direction.
think you've heard the
We will
direction.
be discontinuing this report.
Okay.
Free at last.
Really. Thank you, Sandra.
Funny how things happen.
Well-
This is how we've always done it.
In this form.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Okay, let's see, workshop items. PG&E update?
You done?
Good morning again, board. Chip Close, Director of Water Operations. Today, we're here to give you the latest updates from the NID and PG&E ongoing emergency issue. I'll also fold in a water supply update for you guys to give you a better picture of what we expect moving forward. So basically, NID operations and local PG&E folks continue to coordinate on a weekly basis and discuss our options moving forward. It's been kind of quiet over the holidays, but work has still been progressing. I'm happy to report that. PG&E has provided us with a very high-level updated schedule, which is good. And both agencies are looking towards hitting the go button on this next season's outage. There was some discussion of, hey, if we didn't get enough rain, didn't get enough refill in our reservoirs, that we would pause and wait another year. And although it's very dry right now and a little bit alarming, the current conditions, I think, lean towards just getting this done, getting this over with. And, but we are still working together. I expect a more detailed, updated schedule from PG&E in the next few weeks. Hopefully, we come back to this board at the beginning of February with the official answer and the official declarations as we move forward. So as of right now, though, as I mentioned during the holidays, things were still moving. PG&E has reported that Spalding 2 powerhouse is getting close to testing already. So that's great news. And then the Spalding 1 horn repairs, according to their latest schedule, would begin at the beginning of March and probably not commence to start up until the end of June. That's what we're looking at. But I would like to highlight a few things as we go into this water supply update, and I'll correlate the two as we walk through it. First of all, I like the picture. I wish it looked like that today. So as we mentioned at the last meeting, our precipitation level has been pretty good. We're at 102% of average, and that's actually pretty amazing given it's been so dry. That will go below 100% if it hasn't already, but we do see a slight window of opening for precip in the 10-day. We'll see. Rich has to do a better rain dance. I also provided this slide last time, and as you remember, the northern area was like 150%. We were around 100% of average in the central. Those numbers have dropped drastically. The snowpack's really not very good this year. So the northern area is still at 119% of average, which is okay. Our area is at 74% of average, and that's concerning. But again, without the facilities to move that upper watershed snowpack down into our lower reservoirs, it's not super critical to us this year. The good news is our reservoir storage is pretty robust for this time of year. We're at 109% of average at 209,000 acre feet. So pretty good there. And the most important ones to focus on is Rollins. Rollins came up and spilled right around that Christmas time when we had all those rains. It's now come down off of spill, but we are managing it and coordinating the flows into it with PG&E. And PG&E is working to keep it full for the duration now and top it off just before the outages occur. And they do have that capability. They have enough water in Spalding they can move down. So that's one of the main ticket items as to whether we move forward into this next outage or not. Can we keep this reservoir full?
So once they start working on the second horn, then there's no more water going into the Drum Bore Bay, into the Bear River.
That's correct.
And that is,
Well, let me caveat that, and I'll get into that here in just a second, Rich. There is one other option that we're going to discuss.
Well, I also have a question. So when you said just a second ago, PG&E has the ability to top off Rollins, how do they get the water there? What is their conveyance to top it off?
So basically, they'll utilize the horn that was repaired last year.
Okay.
They'll run it through the powerhouse and put it into the Bear River and send it on down the system.
Okay, thanks.
So that's Rollins side of it. It should start off the year full, which is good. Scotts Flat Reservoir, which was one of our major concerns. You can see there we're at what, 39,000 acre feet. Most of the inflow to Scotts so far basically has been imports. We've been running that South Yuba Canal at a very high rate, higher than we normally do in the winter for the sole purpose of keeping this full or getting it as full as possible. Our projections show that even with zero rain, we're going to get around 43,000 acre feet. It's a 48,000 acre foot reservoir, so a little lower than spill, but still, I think, manageable going into the outage. And here's the critical reason why, is PG&E has now essentially told us that they anticipate Spalding 2 coming online. As you remember in this map that I showed you in the past, Spalding 2 feeds the South Yuba Canal specifically. That's that yellow line. So if they're able to get that running and provide us flows throughout the summer, Scotts Flat should be just fine. Having said that, there's also additional available capacity in the upper reaches of the South Yuba Canal where we can spill a little bit of that excess water and put it into the Bear River. We're planning on doing both, but none of this is guaranteed at this point in time. Still having discussions with PG&E about how we get this done. But all in all, Scotts Flat should be in a little bit better situation than it was last year. Rollins, we anticipate, will be identical, if not maybe a little worse if we don't get a little rain.
Chip, you're putting about, what, 62nd feet into South Yuba Canal, and then walking Cascade Canal, looked like it had quite a bit of water going through there to
Yeah.
the water treatment plants and everything. So how much gets diverted into the Cascade Canal from that, and how much gets into Scotts Flat?
So it's always a game of runoff along with the imports. So yes, we have about 66 import into the South Yuba Canal at the head, relates to about 57 down into Scotts, but we're also utilizing Deer Creek Natural to feed the Cascade. So there are quite a bit of natural flows available this time of year. We're going to count on that moving into these outages. And generally speaking, we do a South Yuba Canal outage at the very early part of April, and we have enough natural runoff to sustain what we need. That drops off rather quickly, but right now we're maximizing both of those, imports and runoff.
So there's no advantage to doing it later, is there?
There really isn't. In fact, it's more detrimental. We will not have enough natural to keep our raw water customers whole if we wait too long.
And I think that's an important distinction to make, because that natural water is pretty important.
Yes, and given that, working with PG&E and their preliminary scheduling does show an outage in basically mid-June, in which they have to tie these systems back together when they hope to get the repairs done. We will suffer a little bit of an outage during that point in time. And depends on if we have enough natural flow or not, but we may have to do some rotating outages, maybe just for a few days. But again, this is all very preliminary. We don't have a fine-tuned schedule yet, but we're working on it.
That's why we have micro ponds.
There you go. All right, so moving forward, the 8 to 14-day temperature outlook is pretty much average. Precip still looks rather dry, but there's some indications the pattern will change in the next 10 days, but we'll see. Monthly temperature is, so this is the next month, shows basically average. And then precip moving into February shows equal chances, 50-50. So nobody really knows just yet. We're hoping for a little bit more rain would certainly help us. Actually, snow would be great too. Drought monitor really hasn't changed since I came before you last board meeting, other than Southern California is now moving more and more into severe drought. And then the U.S. seasonal drought overlook shows the same thing, basically. So I believe that is it for now. So in summary, basically, it's been dry, but Rollins and Scotts Flat should be okay moving forward into this outage. Both agencies are looking for an official go date. We'll probably have that for you at the next board meeting. And then we'll come back to you with conditions and any conditions we put on the start of the irrigation season. As you all recall, we had an emergency declaration, and that was in place until PG&E fixed all of these facilities, and that hasn't happened yet. So we may review those at the next one.
Couple questions if I could.
Yes, sir.
The outages, you said there's probably gonna be one in mid-June.
Correct.
There's gonna be some rotating outages throughout when's the first outage might occur?
So again, we don't have hard dates yet. We're still flexible right now, waiting for a final construction schedule from PG&E. And I want to caution you that if there's enough natural flows available, we won't have to do rotating outages. So I don't want to alarm anyone just yet. As we get closer, we will definitely use our PR team to help get that message out. And I should also caveat that and say that it would affect Nevada County customers and not necessarily Placer County.
Perfect, thank you. Second one is boat ramps. You said that Rollins might be dropping back down and stuff like that. Are we gonna have an issue with that, or is that a question for you?
There is a potential for that once again. Basically, what I would tell folks is what you saw last year at Rollins, you will see virtually the same thing again this year.
Thank you.
So that will take care of the boat issue and the golden mussel.
I think we're going to have an update on the golden mussel in our managers.
The one thing I will say is that if these repairs are made and we get full access to Horn A and B at Spalding, we should be able to fill Rollins up as opposed to continuing it to see it drop. So
Need to be more like average, normal.
yeah,
Normal average.
this year we got up to like 400 to 600 CFS. They should have availability of up to 800 when they get both Horn.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And Spalding and Fordyce look pretty good.
So Fordyce is low. They're doing work on it as we speak. But still a little bit of water available. Their main goal is to manage both of those reservoirs so that they don't spill, but then have enough to feed into Rollins when it's needed.
And we're starting to we'll be buying water then.
Yes.
Yeah.
We will. Any other questions?
Report.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you, Chip. Are there any questions or comments from the public? Chip's update?
And thank you going to the Ag Advisory Commission. You're right, yeah.
All right, seeing none, excuse me, there's no action on this item. This was simply an informational item. We can move forward to item 6B, new job description, senior construction inspector.
Hey. Well, welcome again, board. Excuse me here while I get to that. Okay, so what we're doing today is a workshop to talk about what we would be recommending is a senior construction inspector. This would actually be replacing the supervising construction inspector with a senior construction inspector. Basically, it's a journeyman level, advanced journey level type of thing where, like we have with some of our other positions here throughout the district, just within engineering, we have engineering techs, and then we have a senior engineering techs, associate engineers, senior engineers. Again, it's just identifying an increased level of knowledge and aptitude and ability to perform the job, increasing the what they're relied on in the field. The more individuals are doing constructability analysis for our drawings. They're the face in the field. They're making sure things are getting done correctly. We rely on them heavily because they are the ones out in the field on a daily basis. And as their knowledge grows, they get bigger and bigger projects, more complicated projects, as well as the more straightforward ones. And so this is just an idea, a way to identify that their knowledge has exceeded the construction inspector 2 position, and there's a senior level position. I don't think I put in here, but these would not be new FTEs. This is just
I
potential
wondered. Yeah, okay.
for existing staff to be able to
Mhm.
to grow within the department in terms of the position. So they don't need to have a supervisory inspector. They report directly to the director of engineering, and partly is because they're working on projects for all the engineers. And so it's good to have a buffer or a break between where they can report directly to me to have discussions on projects versus having discussions on projects, which obviously they have to communicate with the engineers. But this gives them ability to talk to me about things that may come up if they need to versus having the project engineer also be their supervisor. And so that can get a little wonky that way. And they're self-motivated. They take very little supervision to begin with. So we really don't need that supervisory position anymore. And so this is just an opportunity to move forward with the seniors. So with that, if you wanted to ask me questions, be happy to answer.
Just looking for input today.
Yeah, correct.
Are there any licenses, special licenses required?
There's not. And so there used to be in a little background, probably it might be 10, 12 years ago. We had what we call the soils lab, which is where the inspectors stayed up, which is now the electrical department. So we had the ovens, we could pound the curves, we had the newt gauges, we had the cylinder brakes and all that type of stuff.
Mhm.
We quit doing those mainly because of a liability concern for us when we're doing that as part of a contract. Same way with the construction staking for surveying. We used to do that as part of the package.
Mhm.
We quit doing that because of the liability concerns if we stake something wrong, et cetera. So we pushed that all onto the contractors. So they're the ones that have to get the soils testing done through a third party, the concrete cylinders breaking. So the inspectors are out there now saying, yeah, this trench looks pretty uniform and straightforward. Every 100 feet's fine. Hey, we got a change in this. We want you to test every 50 feet or every 25 feet, making sure the cylinders are collected appropriately and all that stuff. But all that has been pushed over to the contract side. So there isn't any specific ones. We rarely get into very technical like welding and structural components. And so when we've done that, which is again pretty rare, it's a third party. When we did the Bear River Siphon, which was a suspended bridge effectively, we had a third party that was certified for all the welds and that type of stuff.
Okay.
Can I follow up on that,
Yes,
please?
please.
As I have most of those certifications.
Okay.
Doing that, I've worked both in the public and the private sector on inspections. I've worked on very large projects, including dam rebuilds, et cetera. The company I worked for at the time, LA Water and Power, had a inspector, third-party inspector doing it. But I found it very useful for the inspectors to know how to take a cylinder, how to use the right rod to do a slump test, how to know the difference between 40 KSI and 60 KSI steel, et cetera, et cetera. And therefore, even though it was farmed out or subbed out, having somebody that can go out there and know what's going on is more than valuable in case somebody's not present, et cetera, et cetera. I'm of the opinion that because of that, well, I'll back up and say, currently, if you go on Indeed, almost every single job opening there in the private sector requires the ACI certs, the ICC certs, et cetera. A entry-level construction inspector, I could see not requiring to have those certs, but maybe have a incentive that they get those within X period of time and have us pay for them. Yeah. The level 2, I think, should have those certs, and I think a senior must have those certs, because if we have a inspection on a dam and somebody's not present, or the third party is spread too thin, et cetera, and it's a structural pour, we better know what to look for on the technical side too, before the contractor says, you can't shut me down. You don't know what you're talking about. Yes, I do. X, Y, and Z is not done. So I really think that whatever we are inspecting for, our seniors should have that knowledge. I think that the Tech 2 or the Inspector 2 should have it also. And I think there should be incentives. There should be maybe continuing education credits, knowledge of the plumbing code, the building code, all that stuff, and even in-house training or training outside the house. I know that a lot of the engineers have this knowledge. I think the inspectors should also.
And we do offer and have the inspectors go out and do training, et cetera. They just don't go through the formal process of getting that. So we do welcome their and ask for them to look for training opportunities for that purpose. But we have not specifically required the actual certification process to this point. So like I said, we used to with some of those, with the cylinders, with the density, new gauge, pounding the curves, all that stuff. We used to do all that in-house. Yeah.
Oh,
So
I
we used to have
understand.
that. Yeah.
A lot of the municipalities have taken it outside of house for many, many reasons, including the hearing issue from doing the proctor curves, because they're very
Right.
noisy. Being around xylene and all the other nuclear gauges and everything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm not talking about them having to know or have the training to run the nuke gauge,
Yeah.
or to do a proctor curve, or to have the, but I do want them to know you have to use a 5/8 inch diameter, spherical rod, doing it 8 or 3 levels, blah, blah, blah. Flip the thing over and do your slump test. What is fly ash? Well, if the design engineer calls out fly ash is required, and our guys don't know how that's going to affect things, I think that they need to have that next level of training, just to make sure that we are on top of it. It's a heck of a lot easier to shut a job down or make them do it right than to repair a dam or whatever the case might be.
That's true. We'll go back and look through all of the certs and come up with some type of proposal response.
Yeah.
How many,
We can do it. And a lot of that, of course, is just experience over time too, right? Because they're out there watching those techs do the various things, right? So some of that becomes just knowledge from being out there and seeing that happen. But I'm hearing what you're saying, so we'll take a
But
look
at
at
the
it.
senior level, I think they should be there.
Well, and I think also the point is we've had 2 longtime inspectors. But what
Correct.
happens when we get new inspectors?
Yeah, gotcha.
Is there an advantage to doing this in-house rather than if we already farm out some of the inspections? Could there be an advantage to farming out all the construction inspections to a firm that knows all the technical stuff that Earl talked about that I don't even know what he's talking about? But
good job.
is there a reason that we would do it in-house versus outside?
Yeah, because you've got a couple of things. One, you've got the extensive knowledge of the district and what we do, et cetera, versus, when you have a specific technical, like again, the Bear River siphon, right, where you don't need to know about our systems and our processes and how we move water and how things work. All you got to worry about is that one particular piece, that one structure. It's a little easier to farm that out, whereas having those folks in-house who've come through the ranks, who know how to install them, right? These folks have been on the mucking crews. These folks have been in maintenance, installing pipelines, fixing repairs, all that stuff. So all that kind of knowledge is very valuable for us. And it's also valuable for us in terms of the design component, because It's easy to put something on paper and it looks awesome. Then you go out to build and you're like, what the?
Yeah.
And so these guys are good at that, in that they say, you know, this is gonna be tough to do that because I've done this and man, this is gonna be a problem. But if you do it this way, it's gonna make things a lot easier.
That's
So,
great. Chris.
yeah.
Larger construction inspection projects, for example, for like Scott's Flat spillway, it would be contracted out.
Yeah,
I-
we're gonna
I
have to have
appreciate
an
what Doug
RFP
said
on
about
that.
the institutional knowledge and the historical knowledge is
Mhm.
super useful.
But
Absolutely.
there's also one other point. I think Reagan said it best, trust but verify. The fact that we have maybe a firm doing the full inspection, but we have our guys show up and they know what we know we're talking about. It's very, very dangerous to have a newbie show up from the organization. Oh, that's a cylinder? Show me how it works. They just roll their eyes and it's over. If they walk up and said, hey, where's your XYZ at? Oh, okay, let's behave ourselves. So I think in-house knowledge is very important, having very skilled people with that knowledge and training that can argue the point down. If they say, you don't know what you're talking about, I says, yes, I'm certified. Oh, okay, they shut up and they move on, they do it right.
Mhm.
And it happens all the time in the
Yeah,
field.
it happens even now, right?
Yep.
Even the simplest stuff.
Yeah. I have no problem with us farming out inspection and stuff, but
Yeah,
I
but
like our
you
people
like having the understanding to
trained,
know what,
qualified and
Yep.
certified.
Certified.
I get that.
Right.
Yep.
I agree.
You want
That's a
somebody
good comment.
advocating for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doug, how many inspectors do we have?
We have two.
I'm
That's what I
passionate.
thought.
About it, sorry.
Yeah, we,
It's very good.
the most that we've ever had since I've been here, we had 4 at one time. That was mostly when there was a lot of development stuff happening. And so it was taking up a lot of time to deal with that. But we've had 2 now for several years, and that seems to work for us. They work on multiple jobs. You don't always have to sit in one job all day, right? So they're bouncing around to 4 or 5 jobs. Maybe they have to be there all day because it's a poor day or they're doing something that we need to see, but otherwise contractor stabbing pipe, they're seeing everything looks fine, leave it open, they go do something else, they come back, yep, everything's good, you can button it up. And so it seems to be working at this point with just the 2.
Do they also inspect our in-house jobs?
Typically, no.
Does that work?
Typically, no. I guess it's a little tricky when, yeah.
Yeah.
So the bottom line typically is no. Our inspectors do not typically do our own in-house stuff. Unless there's a question or they have a concern, but otherwise our guys are installing them.
I know. That's interesting.
Well, in theory,
I think it goes
our
back-
maintenance guys also know how to, maintenance guys are working on structure. They're installing a section of pipe, or maybe they're doing a head structure, which are pretty straightforward projects. And they've been doing them forever, and so they know how to do them, right?
Like they've had that, is that institutional knowledge?
Yeah, correct.
Who does our as-bills for in-house projects?
We do. We have a drafter
Right, but
downstairs.
who's collecting the field data for that? Is that inspector?
That's the inspectors. Yep. So the inspectors are marking up their drawings. The contractor also under the contract has to mark up their drawings. They then give them to us. The inspector reviews theirs, reviews the contractors, make sure everything's in there. And then we hand it off to our drafter and they put it into a final document.
You just said we don't inspect our in-house.
Our in-house guys mark them up and give them directly to the drafter. The inspectors aren't reviewing those because they weren't out there. Yeah.
So the major input I heard is that we will review certifications and come back with a proposal. So as with our typical process with new job descriptions is we propose them one in the workshop format to obtain input. We take the input, make any modifications, and then bring it back.
Would there be a recruitment for this position, or is there people in-house that you have identified that
This right now is just a job specification.
just a job
Yeah.
specification?
We do any internal or any recruitments that could be considered promotional opportunities in compliance with the employee MOUs.
Understood. Yeah.
So on our own projects, we have a supervisor overseeing the project to make sure it's done correctly.
Yeah, correct.
And should that supervisor have some of these qualifications that Earl is talking about?
Not necessarily the certifications, but it's very typical for construction inspectors not to come inspect repairs by your own staff.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's pretty normal course of business.
Or replacement of a head structure or whatever the
Right.
case may be.
Okay, any other further comments? Earl, thank you for that. I really, I appreciate that because that was a concern of mine. It's like, so thank you. Really good input, I think. Are we ready to move forward with the strategic plan review?
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right,
Item
this-
6C.
This item was requested by the board at the last meeting, and the purpose was just to do a real cursory review of the board's strategic priorities that were adopted in 2023 and to obtain input, whether the board would like to reaffirm them or modify them. Remind the board that this was last brought before the board October 9th. So typically what we do is prior to budgeting, we bring the item forward. We also at that time provide an update on all of the tasks and where we're at. And then the purpose of that meeting, which we did in October, is to do it prior to the budget so we can make sure the budget is aligned with the board's strategic
yeah.
priorities. However, we do have 2 new board members. So I think it's Director Hecht who had requested that we bring it back forth. So I did attach the goal and objectives tracking spreadsheet. However, we will not be reviewing that in depth today. That was reviewed in October.
Is this the same one as that one?
Yep, nothing has changed.
That was my guess when I was looking.
Yeah, it was just more for information. What my plan is board will recall the old process was to bring forward the item reviewing the strategic priorities and goals and objectives and progress to date prior to the annual budgeting process in the fall time period. We then kind of in February, March of each year, bring forward what we refer to as operational initiatives. And these are things that may not completely align with a board strategic priority, but nonetheless are necessary for efficiency or administrative or regulatory concerns. However, this year I will be combining those, but I did not want to present the combined operational initiatives and strategic priorities to the board without receiving input on whether you would like to reaffirm your priorities or not.
Right.
So we are just focusing on the priorities right now, and I'll turn the floor over to the board.
Comments? Questions? Brad?
Uh,
You're good?
Well, no, I have questions, but I was hoping to.
Somebody else will ask.
So no,
I'm up.
so I was able to review the strategic priorities, and I'm wondering if it's just it might be a little. It might be much. My impression is that there's a lot of the strategic priorities that are not achievable, or I don't know. I went through, it looks like there's 57 measurable things and 26 of them were advanced. We just kind of kicked it down the road. So that's nearly half. That's a lot. So is there too much here is my question.
We talked all about that when we developed this. I can remember having this conversation.
Yeah.
There's no way.
So how do we prioritize what's
Right,
really
that's my
important? And
question.
I guess that if it's actually strategic priorities, which ones are actually the priorities versus which, if we need to kick them down, I understand that. But
Because we talked about.
if it's so big that we can't do half of them, maybe we need to amend it.
Yeah, that's a great point. A lot of the items were kicked down the road due to the plan for water being behind schedule. I think what would be real beneficial is, I do agree that that's a valid point, is to look at it in the context of overall priorities when we also combine the operational initiatives. The board has a full view of what we're
Right.
doing. We do take on a lot, and as I think Director Fowler and I discussed, there's always a fire going on in our world, so we're always having to pivot and deal with something. So it's very great idea to take a look at what all we've put on our plate and can we actually do it?
Right. Is it achievable?
Is it achievable? And we do like to overload what we like to get done.
Well, I guess my question is, they can't
Are
all
they
be
all-
priorities, right? There's
Right.
maybe strategic ideas or strategic goals, but maybe we could prioritize them a
something-
little bit better.
Yeah, less than a priority.
Yeah.
Well,
Strategic,
but also
fun.
I have things on my list that I'd love to have done that they don't ever make it to the top of the list of getting done
Right, they're not
Right,
moving.
because it's not making me money or whatever. So
And that's valid. I also think that, the goals, these, kind of the goals and objectives that were identified for each priority, those were also done back in 2023. Now that we've actually gone through starting some of these things, there are items where I'd say, okay, that actually doesn't even make sense what we originally wrote. We should combine it with
Right.
this, or
Right.
we're never gonna do
Just
it.
dump it.
Or yeah, it doesn't make sense to even do it that way. So my plan is to work with the department heads to clean all this up, combine it with the organizational initiatives, and then we'll possibly propose some changes and talk through them with the board so we can maybe make a more reasonable plan.
Well, that's why I asked to see this, because I figured it's been a couple years. Let's see where we are and
Mhm.
what we might need to change. And
We're always a
that's
little
great.
over ambitious.
A lot of the priorities hit the capital improvement program.
Correct.
I mean, that's where the priorities really get feathered out. I mean,
They do.
identified. So we can use that as the serious priorities.
Yeah, there is a lot of these items where we're, discussing kind of some of these separate plans and those items, but you are correct. A lot of that does get fleshed out when we're doing the actual CIPs, whether that's the 5-year plan or just an annual.
And that bumps up against the, how much we can afford.
Oh, it does. And then, there's priority shift even mid-year. We're kind of going, okay, well, it's better if we spend our money on this particular project that we didn't even have on our radar.
Is it proper to, ask Dustin his take on the president's call to ship more water to Southern California?
I would not think that that would be proper.
that is not, well, it is not on the agenda. It's not an agendized item at this.
That's why I asked.
Jen, I have a question though on, let's see, goal to develop updated raw water master plan. And then I noticed that we say will not incorporate outcomes into raw water master plan from the plan for water. And
Well, I think the not is a typo.
oh, okay. Well, yeah. Okay. I
Sure,
appreciate that because I thought, what?
That was my question.
Was
I
it?
didn't,
Okay.
like I said, this was it. I didn't intend this for review again, so I didn't
not-
check it for typos either. So that typo has actually been around for a while.
Yeah.
Yes, it has.
Well, then I just,
Well, where's our typo woman?
So back to you were talking about operational, I wasn't what you said about operational.
We do other things. So what we do is we try to identify all of the, we have everyday work that's constantly
yes,
Right.
right.
just the normal hamster wheel of work. And then great example. Greg and Naomi have been doing an excellent job of working through developing personnel rules and regulations. We had this huge administrative kind of nightmare going on with conflicts between board policies, employee contracts, other things we're required to do from different laws. And so we're going, this is so confusing. And we end up having to kind of do this contract law thing, which supersedes what from a legal perspective, and the employees. It's frustrating for the employees because they don't know where to look for what we're supposed to be doing or not doing. And so they took on this huge effort in conjunction or coordination with the union to completely overhaul it and develop most agencies have a rules and regulations kind of policy that's adopted that's outside of like all the individual board policies. So that's something that's kind of an operational initiative that we've been working on, but may fall in employee engagement, but it's more of kind of a administrative cleanup thing. So it's items like that.
That are not included in here, that we don't see here.
Right.
But you're spending time.
And we present them every year. Yeah, and it's to inform the board of the other large things that we're doing.
Right.
These are the items that are on kind of the strategic priority goals and objectives list, as well as the operational initiatives list, are items that are above and beyond normal everyday work. And so we're going to be combining them because we've overly complicated our lives by having all this tracking. So we'll combine them for the board.
That's a
So
good idea.
that's exactly what I was going to ask. If we have 5 kind of categories, if we could flesh out 5 actual goals instead of 57, because I have 57 on my list at home, right? But we're going to get 2 of them done today. I'm pretty sure. So if we,
Okay, if you get.
if that could take away some of the distractions of all these other things that if we could identify, like I said, for example, 5 would be, I imagine would be useful or perhaps not.
No, I think it's a great idea. I think it's a valid point. So
Otherwise we get hung up in
we do. And
minutia.
some of the things.
And there's still day-to-day, and I appreciate there's still day-to-day work. The operation has to keep going, right? I
Right.
still have to feed the cows despite the pipeline project. So
Right. A great example is the FERC implementation plan.
Yes.
We don't, FERC is, the FERC relicensing process is so up in the air right now. You know, there's a lot of conversations going on, and we have also kind of turned our strategy related to some of the FERC relicensing or modified it, which will totally change the implementation. So now, is that a priority for me right now? No, not at all. So that would be one of those things, you know, I'm also famous for putting my weekend to-do lists together, and you know, haven't vacuumed by Sunday. So agree.
So the other question, are we normally scheduled just before the budget to go through this line by line, or?
We usually go before the budget, and then we usually do a spring one. So we can continue kind of doing that twice a year. And that helps us, the February, March one helps you know we're working on through the year. And then the October one lets the board and the public know what progress we've made.
Right.
Allows us also time to review and adjust based off of comments that like we just received. And then also make sure our budget planning is aligning with what our priorities are. Because if the board all of a sudden says, you know, we'd like staff to focus on this study, we likely need consultant resources. You know, there's all these resources we need. So we need to include that in the budget.
Right.
Yeah. So we'll still keep with the same touch point timing, but they'll be combined as opposed to kind of two separate things. I think it'll be less confusing.
Okay, any further comment? Rich?
Well, no, I mean, this has value.
It does have value.
no, and I'm not trying to
no,
discount
no,
that.
no.
I'm just wondering how what's the process to whittle this down to a more manageable task list?
And that's how I was going to finish that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I overstepped. Go ahead.
We're in stereo, so we're good.
So just to confirm from the board, the current strategic priorities of long-term infrastructure, water supply reliability, employee engagement, watershed stewardship and resiliency, financial sustainability, and technology and innovation investments are still a thumbs up.
Yes, I think so.
Okay.
Can I ask one question on that?
Yes, sir.
The number one on there, does that include looking at additional revenue sources?
That is under financial sustainability.
Yep.
Yeah. I like to call it non-ratepayer revenue.
But this also came out in order. There was some kind of order of priority.
when
All
we did
five
the-
are important,
Yeah.
but
They were all given equal priority.
Right.
All
that's
four,
not how I saw it, but
it's fine. All five of the.
We have Rich's priority. We have
I mean, I saw a lot more, support for long-term infrastructure. I saw a lot of support for employee, engagement, watershed,
yeah.
stewardship. I mean, financial sustainability, we need to do it all.
Mhm.
That's
We're talking about prioritizing the priorities.
Out of the five.
Out of the
Yeah, he wants
Yeah.
me to rank them.
Everyone wants to re-rank the five.
no,
I don't think we need to re-rank them. I think they're all,
this is not in a ranking. This is
Right,
in a just random number order.
Right.
Right.
They could have been assigned bullets.
exactly.
Well, I think this is a really good start. This is only 2 years old or 3 years old
Mhm.
now.
still-
And we spent a lot of time brainstorming this thing.
Mhm.
I was tired of that. But
Yeah, but
It
it
was a good
came, I
process.
think it was a
Yeah.
good process
Yeah.
and we,
Right.
we came up with a good product, I
Yeah.
think. So
And
then
it's-
now we
and
just. work on
recognizing
it,
it's
build on
also
it.
very fluid and subject to change
Right.
with notice.
it has weathered the, 2 years. It still looks great.
And it's time for kind of rehash
Refresh.
and look at some of our goals and objectives, because
Right.
some of them you could look back and go, oh, that doesn't really work that way. What are we
Right,
doing? Yeah.
right.
Well intended, but maybe not
Mhm.
practical in terms of a process.
Okay.
All right.
Any
Well,
other,
then,
yes, for public comment, if there's
Yeah.
comments from the public on our strategic plan review? Okay, seeing none, we done here at board level? Comments?
Yes, done.
Right, time to move to general manager's report.
I had two quick items. One is related to just providing a real brief golden muscle update. Staff will provide a presentation at the next board meeting. But essentially, we are developing a system for kind of tagging, dry, that whole program. So stay tuned. We're working on it. We're still working diligently to get those boat ramps back open, but it just need to be done in a manner where we're not going to destroy.
Our systems,
Yeah.
yes.
One of the options is complete no boats or strictly boats that only use Scott's Flat or only use Rollins? Are those two of the options?
Yeah, so we're looking at a dry and drain option. We're also looking at a decontamination option. And then part of those has a tagging system included with it. And then part of that tagging system could essentially, what we've been evaluating or investigating, is that boats that are tagged dry or decontaminated for Rollins could move into Scott's and vice versa. So we're coming up with the whole program.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's
The
a
no boat
lot of work.
option at all, we haven't explored. I think, I mean, that is the board's
That
prerogative.
is an option.
I do think that it would cause a lot of community problems.
Well, it could, but
The heartburn.
we have to look at it. As well as looking at inviting everybody who shows up, but going through inspections.
And so right now, our proposal would be inspection process and or decontamination, which you pay for, and or it's probably going to be a combination of those in the tagging.
I saw the email that came out from the vendor at Scott's Flat and referring back to Tahoe's procedures. And I don't know a lot about the boating, but I talked to people that do know boating and they said that works fairly well and they're quite content with that. So I think that is something we should also entertain.
Yeah, we have a staff member going on a field trip up to the Tahoe area to actually get eyes on how they do that. She might have already gone. But eyes on how they actually do it, how they do the decontamination. And there is also, we're working on trying to get a decontamination unit from another
Right, from
agency.
Tahoe. That's what,
So decontamination would be an insecticide?
No, it's
Mm-mm.
hot
a
steam
tank.
water. Yeah,
Oh, boy.
it kills them.
They scald them.
So
Lake Berryessa has a really good program, so they're on top of it. Yeah, so
Old
we've
Mu-
been
or-
in touch with agencies that are already doing it to get their best practices and understand where they've had issues.
So it relies on the person applying the hot water. Gold mussels, are they edible?
I don't know.
That's the answer.
Soup kitchen?
Yeah.
We could have like a clam
incentive.
chowder mussel stand, Red Bulls.
So who pays for the steam and the inspections?
Usually there is a
Monica's budget?
fee. So decontamination is set at $75 or $50 or whatever it is.
Oh.
But once you get your boat done once, if you get it tagged when you leave, then you wouldn't have to get it done again. Essentially, the tagging is it's a breakable band that ties the boat to the trailer.
Mhm.
And so you could tell if it's been pulled off again.
Right.
So we will report back.
You buy those tags on Amazon?
No, well,
Now we're talking.
right? The black market for tagging. No, tags end up having a serial number. The serial number gets logged into database. So it's all.
It's all tracked.
So once you're, you said once they're clean, then you don't have to get, so you can go from lake to lake, or how's it?
We haven't developed a process
Okay.
yet, but we are looking at being able to allow folks that get tagged in Rollins to go to
Oh, in
Scott's Flat.
area.
Ideally, if you trusted all your partners in the California, once you get tagged somewhere, you would be allowed to go any other lake that has the same program. We're not quite there yet, but we're working with
As
other.
long as they're
agencies.
mussel free.
Correct.
So free.
But we'll bring an item back next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then I had one more item. I've had several questions related to our joint concern regarding fires, given the unfortunate and sad situation down in Southern California. We are in touch with our local fire departments and we are setting up an internal meeting specifically to discuss fire hydrant maintenance. And so we will we'll report back to the board. But I did want to assure the board and the public, we do take fire concerns very seriously and we are looking into, do we have any shortcomings right now?
Mhm.
But I do want to just make one statement. I think a lot of us know this, but it probably is worth savings. The treated water system was never originally designed to fight large scale wildfires. They are very effective on putting out smaller scale fires, which can prevent a large scale wildfire. So they still have a use in this topic and are a relevant part of it. But we will be coming back to the board as well.
My understanding, I think I remember Chip telling us that those fire hydrants are inspected by the fire departments, not by us.
And so that is
that
part,
correct?
that's part of the memorandum of understanding we are reviewing with the fire department, so we'll address. all
Oh,
their
okay.
concerns. Yeah.
Okay, great.
I can segue from that.
Well, one moment. So I just want to make sure, is there any other comments or questions of Jen on her report? Okay, well, then we can do Board of Directors items.
else. So, so we had a town hall meeting in Penn Valley last, 2 weeks ago, Thursday on the 23rd, 21st, no, 9th. And this, because the LA fires were going on, and talking with Chip and Nate and Jennifer, that the fire system, the treated water system down there is not set up to fight a wildland fire, nor in Wildwood. It could fight maybe 1 or 2 homes. The fire, so I called the fire chief, Don Wagner. I also had a little short talk with Chief Bruce Stephenson, and then also the former fire marshal, Terry McMahon. And then talking with Chief Wagner, it was presented that night that Penn Valley, and probably going up into Rough and Ready, even Wildwood, would probably do a master plan, look at doing a master plan of what it will take to protect those communities from fire, a wildland fire. And just defensible space is certainly part of it, but strategically placed up to 30,000 gallon or more, 30,000 gallon, probably minimum tanks, but water tanks, 30,000 gallons minimum, that the fire trucks can move into and work off of, and will actually do something, put the fire out. Put them all over. You can, everywhere you can, as much as we can afford. And the former fire marshal said, yeah, he knows a place that would really be ideal for different communities, even reaching out. So it's a plan that on the surface seems to work or could work, because there's certainly not enough water in the system to if we have a repeat of 49er fire, the water treatment plant at Wildwood ran out in 4 hours. So then I talked to a friend or two on the lake at Wildwood, and started talking about getting their own pumps. That if there's a fire coming, put the pump in, and just everybody protect themselves and their neighbors, and do the best. And water tenders would certainly could pull out of Wildwood. It's a great resource. So anyway, I think there's some traction on that, and there's a definite community need. So it got a lot of positive comments on that. It would also got a question about the backbone extension, which we just, it's a fully approved project. We just don't have the money. If these water tanks go in, it takes care of part of the problems. People can get treated water somehow cheaper than they can get firefighting water. And these tanks would really help Rough and Ready. So I also want to give a shout out to the Penn Valley Thrift Store. I don't know if how many of you've been to the thrift store in Penn Valley, but they presented to the fire department a couple of weeks ago a check for the revenue from 2024, $250,000. That will pay for a new ambulance. These guys are knocking home runs. They're just selling the heck out of stuff in that store, and it's all volunteer. So kudos, they're incredible. And I also got interested in the email we got from Congressman Kevin Kiley's office about a $50 million water resiliency program, grant money. I don't know. Does anybody really know what that's all about?
I didn't see his particular email. We are aware of all the grant programs, so I'll take a look at it.
Okay. And yeah, no, job well done, everybody. Thanks.
Earl?
Maybe a follow-up on this, but I am very concerned that in 2025, 2026, the district will not be able to afford fire insurance unless we have some sort of a plan in place, et cetera. everyone's worried, all businesses, et cetera, in California are saying, I mean, they're talking about a 50% increase on homeowners because of the LA fires. So that's gonna possibly hurt a lot of things, but how is the district funded for insurance? Can we put together a strategic plan for the district that we have, and will it help?
Protection of our facilities you're talking about?
Well, both from a physical standpoint and from an insurance standpoint.
Mhm.
If we know that we can protect these facilities, awesome. Or if we can get a break on insurance, et cetera, because we have these in place.
Yeah, that's a great point. We'll take a look at that and come back. We do obviously have insurance, and you know, specifically our hydropower facilities, any transmission lines, it's all very expensive. So we'll go back and Greg and I will take a look. I know we renew every year, so that's a good point in conversation to have.
Can I tag to that quickly? So there was 5 steps I had to do on my own house, and hardscape around the house, concrete siding, tin roof, Vulcan vents, which we are getting in at a very reasonable price, that will prevent ambers from going into the attics, and also do a lot of clearing or defensible space around the house. And I think the savings was 14.5%.
Most of it, we don't get additional savings. We don't get insurance unless we do the clearing. So
That's right.
yeah, it's a little bit opposite, especially with electrical facility. So we do significant tree and brush clearing every single year.
What you're talking about is what, wildlife urban interface.
Yep.
WUI,
The woo-
Ooh,
the WUI, yeah. Brad, do you have a director report?
I'm
Sure.
I'm loving the January weather. We continue dropping lambs on the ground. I fielded a handful of phone calls about fire hydrants, or
Yes.
people just stopped me and asked me about fire hydrants. And so I was able to learn a little bit. Chip made a presentation at the Ag Advisory Commission where he touched on it a little bit. And it seems like fire is going to be driving a lot of decisions. And I'm looking forward to a time when a single meeting that I go to, I'd love to come to a single meeting in any circumstance, not just here, where we don't talk about fire or insurance.
Right.
If we could do that just once in 2025 would be cool.
That would,
But it seems like those two kind of chase each other, and unfortunately, maybe fear is going to be driving some decisions in the near and long term in California.
Director Beerwagon, do you have a report?
Yes, so I attended, Greg had a invitation to go meet with the Chicago Park Garden Club, do a presentation
Nice.
on NID stuff. He brought his PowerPoint and did an excellent job. Plenty of pictures. And we had a robust discussion about NID stuff. That was sometime last week. Good job, Greg.
Before I go, I'm seeing someone's got their hand up. Mike's iPad? I don't know who that.
It's up to the board president. We don't typically take public comment.
Well, I know, but you
Direct
know, I
reports,
had, but I think I missed it is my issue.
I think it popped up when Director Johansson was speaking, but if you'd like to take the comment, feel free to.
Well, I think since I brought it up, I should take the comment.
Sure.
So go ahead, Mike's iPad. If you want to,
Mike, you'll need to unmute yourself.
there you go.
Yeah, my name is Mike Bernadette. I'm a ratepayer in Division 5. And yeah, I've got another three points. One just came up about fire and insurance. Yeah, it seems that the hardest structure to defend or insure is the south of the canal, the wooden trestle portions. My question is there a fire clearance requirement around the wooden trestles currently? Is that being looked at or enhanced currently?
Mike, when we take public comment, we're not able, because it's not an agendized item, we're not really able to respond, but we can take down your questions and respond in another manner.
Get back to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, another thing on ratepayers' minds, on my mind, is water security, and of course our emergency over the last year. I feel is a symptom of a trend that you know, these hydro facilities are not. They're basically obsolete. Most of the hydro facilities are essentially obsolete. because they're not able to operate, a cash flow positive in the electrical rate environment, and considering their age and their inaccessibility. And I know CPUC inexplicably denied PG&E permission to sell the Drum Spalding project in the last year and a half. And I get the feeling that PG&E will want to divest of that in the near future. And I just want to know, who on with NID is monitoring that situation and will be, ready to pick up that property if it does become available. It seems that PCWA is interested in buying Drum Spalding, and is NID in talks with them, PCWA and the CPUC, about the Drum Spalding project changing hands. Is there any report on that?
Well, thank you for your comments, and those are all good points and will be discussed at some point in the
Yeah,
future.
just a short answer. Yes.
Yeah.
We've always.
And the answer is yes. Yes, we are. So, all right, for that, I'll close public comment and I'll give my very brief director report, which is I got to take the train from Colfax to Truckee this last week. And I don't know if any of you have ever done it, but first of all, there wasn't very much snow, which was a bummer. But I'll tell you what, seeing our watershed from that perspective was remarkable. And it was a lovely, wonderful experience. And I got to see our canals. I mean, it was grand. So that was my director investigation for the week. It was the train. Anyway, if you all get a chance to do it, it's worth it. So, okay, with that, I can adjourn.
For that helicopter, right?
Ooh.